Deadly Descent into Chaos, the story of Flight 512.
Has crashed in the south of the country.
It appears it was descending at about 10,000 feet per minute. So this is well beyond what you would see in the event of an emergency descent. So something went rapidly wrong. We don't know what.
One of the black boxes was found in the wreckage of the Boeing jet.
There is no word yet on whether anyone has survived the crash.
In the annals of aviation history, certain flights become etched in our collective memory, not merely for their destinations, but for the stories they carry. One such flight is Flight 512, a journey that would forever change the lives of those on board. On the 3rd of May, 1986, an Air Lanka flight from London Gatwick Airport via Zurich and Dubai and was about to fly onto the Maldives Islands in the Indian Ocean when an explosion ripped the aircraft in two. That's a staggering statistic that highlights just how unpredictable flying can be. But today, we're zooming in on one of those tragedies, Flight 512. Buckle up, because this story takes us into the heart of chaos in the skies.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the Flight 512 incident, a significant moment in aviation history. It's a story that not only shook the passengers aboard, but also sent ripples through the aviation community. Understanding what happened on that fateful day is crucial, not just for history buffs, but for anyone who ever boards a plane. So, let's get into it. Alright, Air Lanka Flight 512 was an Air Lanka, now Sri Lankan Airlines, flight from London Gatwick Airport via Zurich and Dubai to Colombo, Bandaranaike International Airport, and Male, Maldives. On the 3rd of May 1986, the Lockheed L1011 TriStar operated by Air Lanka was on the ground in Colombo, about to fly on to Mal, when an explosion ripped the aircraft in two, destroying it. The flight left Charlotte Municipal Airport at 7:41 p.m. The weather forecast called for clear skies or scattered clouds. At 8:57 p.m, the pilots were advised that there would be a delay of an undetermined length due to the fog. The flight entered a holding pattern until 9:33 p.m, when it was instructed to enter the approach path to runway 4R. Other aircraft landing ahead of the flight reported dense fog at ground level with extremely low visibility. Let's first talk about aircraft. The aircraft was a Douglas DC-7B four-engined passenger aircraft. It was manufactured in September 1956. It was registered by Eastern Airlines and had a total flying time of 18,411 hours at the time of the crash. The airport required a visibility of at least 2,000 feet, 610 m, for a runway to remain open. As Flight 512 approached the runway, the pilots descended to as low as 25 feet, 8 m, above the ground, about 1,000 feet, 300 m, beyond the touchdown point on the runway. One of the wings struck the ground, and the aircraft tumbled across a marsh. In moments like these, the training and experience of the flight crew are put to the ultimate test. Their ability to remain calm under pressure can make all the difference. As the situation unfolded, the passengers were informed of the issue. The crew's transparency helped to alleviate fears, fostering a sense of trust amidst uncertainty. One of the wings struck the ground and the aircraft tumbled across a marsh. At 9:45 p.m, tower personnel saw a bright orange flash and initiated emergency procedures. They requested that the crew of American Airlines Flight 8, which was on approach immediately after Flight 512, overfly the runway to see if they could see what had happened. After the flyover, the crew reported back that they could see a fire to the left of the runway. Did you know how many passengers and crew members were in the flight? The captain of the flight was Edward Bechtold, aged 43. He received the Air Medal for meritorious achievement. The co-pilot was Julius Wagner, aged 45. There was total 3 pilots in the plane. All 3 pilots were killed in the crash. The 2 flight attendants, Helen Fournier, age 21, and Patricia Richards, age 22, survived the crash and assisted with the evacuation of survivors of the crash. The plane carried 45 passengers at the time of the crash. 21 of the passengers were killed, and some of the survivors were injured. All of the survivors were seated in the rear half of the plane, which remained intact long enough for them to escape.
Just short of the threshold for runway 28 left. The first thing to hit was the main landing gear, which was then immediately sheared off as it was designed to do. After that, the tail of the aircraft impacted and was torn off in the area around the aft pressure bulkhead. When the tail departed the aircraft, 2 passengers and 4 flight attendants were ejected from the hole that opened up in the cabin. The aircraft now slid along the runway and both engines sheared off. The back of the aircraft then started rising up in the air and the whole aircraft cartwheeled over, turning almost 330 degrees before it again impacted the ground and came to a final stop. The dust soon settled over the wreckage of the Boeing 777 as it lay left of the runway, but inside of the aircraft, in a testament to the incredible durability of this design, most of the passengers and crew were still alive. The impact had caused 2 slides to activate inside of the cabin, pinning 2 flight attendants to their seats and making those emergency exits impossible to use.
It felt as if time slowed down, and the outcome was uncertain. Would they make it? The drama of that moment is what defined the Flight 512 disaster. Now, let's wrap up. Many were seen walking around the perimeter, having left their vehicles on surrounding roads. The airport was closed to air traffic until 7:10 a.m. the following morning. Survivors said that the plane burst into flames immediately after the crash. While the rear section of the fuselage remained relatively intact, other sections of the fuselage, engine parts, and broken pieces of propellers were scattered around the crash site. Many of the survivors were thrown clear of the aircraft when it hit the ground, still strapped to their seats. Others climbed out of the broken fuselage and were assisted by the 2 flight attendants to safety. Victims were taken to the airport's medical center. 2 of the survivors had critical injuries, while others were less seriously injured. 2 of the survivors had critical injuries, while others were less seriously injured. A team of 80 flight experts, including a team of 24 from the Civil Aeronautics Board, CAB, began an investigation. On October the 10th, 1963, the CAB released its final accident report. The probable cause of the accident was the technique employed by the crew during their abandonment of the aircraft's approach in the unexpected fog conditions. So what do you think about the Flight 512 disaster? Have you ever experienced a scary moment while flying? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about aviation history and the incredible stories behind it, make sure to check out our next video. Thank you for flying with us today, and we'll see you next time.